no job on this planet that would make up for something happening to your child. If he would have left his kids there for 2 hours and they were kidnapped, or one of them suffocated in the ball of pitch, there's not a job in the world that he would have gotten that would have made up for that.
You're right.
So no, I do not.
Donkey, but not getting locked up.
That's not up to us. There's child negligence laws for a reason, and this is child negligence. And guess what, Envy? You say that, but if you had a babysitter, if you hired somebody to watch your kids, and your kids if that babysitter just left your kids somewhere unattended for 2 hours, you'd be the first person wanting them locked up.
Envy would be in jail.
Exactly. So what are you talking about?
I would be in jail.
Crazy. Hello, welcome to the Uncoupled Couple podcast, which is about two baby mamas navigating a unique co-parenting journey.
Mostly connected and sharing our experiences. I'm Nikki.
And I'm Elle, and welcome to the Uncoupled Couple.
The Uncoupled Couple. Yes, you're going to learn more about that eventually.
Hello, and welcome to the Uncoupled Couple, a podcast about two baby mamas navigating a unique co-parenting journey.
Closely connected and sharing our experience. I'm one of your hosts, Nikki.
And I'm Elle.
And we're the Uncoupled Couple. So, today's episode is titled Parenting Fail or Survival Mode. The Uncoupled Couple weighs in. So, what we're going to be talking about today is, some of you may have seen the story, or it was a few months ago. It was in March of earlier this year. It's a young guy that left his kids ages 1, 6, and 10 at the McDonald's to go on a job interview. They were left at the McDonald's unattended for about an hour and 45 minutes. And we're going to be talking about that. So I do also want to say that we do our homework here, and we did find out an update to the story that it didn't actually go down like that. He wasn't at an interview. Some other stuff was going on, but
there were a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, it was. It's like he went over there to put an application, but then he did some other stuff.
He delivered a bag, and he still had the bag he was supposed to take in.
Yeah,
the mom came upset, and she was like, "You were not to leave the kids alone."
Supposedly. So it's just a whole lot of he say, she say. But we really want to just talk about the issue at hand, because there are people that have had to leave their kids to go on an interview, and and that's what they really were doing, and that's how they went about it. So we want you guys to watch this video, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about it. So go ahead and check this out
right now. And welcome to The Factor Uncensored, and thanks for joining us tonight. First up, a job interview ends badly for a man in Georgia. Chris Lewis was arrested March 22nd. Police say he left his kids in a McDonald's by themselves while he went to an interview for a job. He reportedly told police he did not have a car and lived nearby. Lewis said instead of making his 3 kids, who are 1, 6, and 10 years old, walk home alone, he decided to make them stay in the restaurant. There's been a lot and ongoing debate about this. If we can hold that, Sonora, grab that for me. A lot of debate about this on the Isaiah Factor Instagram page. We asked, what was the appropriate age for kids to be left unattended? 41% say 10 to 12. 39% say 13 to 15, and 20% say 16 years and up. Our guests are here on The Factor Uncensored to talk about this. We have with us Davenport case manager Jay Bailey, therapist Dr. Bernadette Smith, and parent Matilda Saragosa. Glad to have you all on The Factor Uncensored. So, Matilda, let's begin with you as a parent. Your thoughts about this situation?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I feel there's still a lot of missing information for me to make that full assessment. Like, what was the length of time they were left alone? Were they inside of the McDonald's? Were they in the car? Can you clarify that for me really quick?
What we know is he was there from the kids were there from 4:30. He returned at 6:18. Okay. And then the mother was on the way as well, but we don't know if she was called by police or him after the fact, or if she was on the way anyway. So there, like you said, there are still a lot of unanswered questions.
Correct. I feel like at some point we encourage this the community to stay vigilant and report these incidents, and I feel like that's what they did. But at the end of it all, like, what was the backstory to it? Did he intentionally just go in there to leave an application and they asked him to stay for an interview and it prolonged the waiting period for the children? You know, were they inside or outside? Temperatures? Like, what was the damaging? If they were inside of the public setting, was it a safe setting? You know, there were so many things that we could still try to figure out in order to rectify or remedy this situation.
And Dr. Smith, a lot of people are cautious on how they approach this report because a lot of parents can see themselves in a situation where you don't have someone to provide for your children, or you can't afford a babysitter and you have to provide for them, and you're caught between a rock and a hard place.
No, it's very tough, and I think that what this story is showing is when you do not have a village and when you do not have means and resources to provide for that care, what then are you doing? And so to your question, one of the things that I heard was that he left the kids in the play place, so they were playing at the McDonald's playground area. Again, was that maybe best judgment? Who knows? But what we also know, I feel it comes from a space of desperation. And so when you don't have the resources, when you don't have access to a village, and you're trying to further your family by getting a job and doing the things in which we're told to do in society, and then he's penalized, again, being able to look at what resources can we then provide. Like, for example, in Houston, there's the House of Tiny Treasures that provides childcare for people who are unhoused and kind of in that space.
All right, Jay, let's bring you in. Your thoughts on this as an expert looking from the outside, and your thoughts about parents who may be put in a position like this or put themselves in a position like this, depending on which way you're looking at it.
In this situation, I do think that we do need more information to properly assess his opportunities and his resources. But I do think that it takes a village, and so we need to call on our village when we do need help. And you can always contact, foster care agencies or just any social service setting that could help you in situations like that.
And of course, Matilda, you're a parent. You know sometimes that help is not out there.
No.
And not readily available. If you you get that call. We want to talk to you today about this job. And sometimes the village is busy.
And being in Houston, coming from Houston, we are limited with our resources, and it's a tough situation, just like we all spoke of. He was in between a rock and a hard place. Like, do I do this for my family? Do I run the risk of running into CPS? Am I going to get railroaded? And it could be a whole bunch of all of that at the same time happening. And it's just unfortunate. He wasn't in the club slapping booty. He was trying to get a job, so he was doing what he thought was best for his family. And I hope that there's a great outcome for him. I hope it doesn't stick and that his children are safe and placed back with him.
Okay, so now that you have seen the video, we're going to give our take on it. And again, we are not professionals. We're not counselors. We're not therapists.
Thank you for saying that. This is our opinion. We're going to weigh in and talk about how we, as moms, feel about this whole scenario and how it went down, some of our experiences and, all the things. So
we want you to join in and leave your comments down below, to give us your opinion and your take on it. So my question is, was he wrong?
So that's a loaded question. It's not a cut and dry yes or no, because my answer would be yes and no. Because a 10-year-old can probably watch a 6-year-old, but a 10-year-old watching a 1-year-old, I'm not so sure. It really depends on that 10-year-old. Me personally, prideful, I wouldn't have left my kids alone in the McDonald's. I would have been more apt if I was in that situation to have left them at home by themselves. But, we don't know the children in this position, because his thoughts may have been, if I leave them at home, they can turn the oven on, they can potentially get a hold of a knife, or, all of the things. At McDonald's, pretty much, what can you do, knock over some napkins? Or it's nothing accessible to the children there. So actually a home would be a safer environment. I mean, the McDonald's is a safer environment than a
It's
home.
so many things to take into account because we don't know the whole story. We haven't spoken with him.
But we're going to talk today from the perspective of he was going to an interview and he didn't have anybody to watch the kids, obviously. I mean, if he's in their life, let's assume he cares about his kids, right?
Right.
So that means that if he resorted to leaving his kids unattended for an interview, so like I say, for the sake of this conversation, let's say he did this because he didn't have anybody else to watch his kids.
Right.
He had to, and again, part of the story, as you all heard, was he said he didn't have a car. The interview was across the street, and he didn't want to leave the kids by themselves, or he didn't want them to have to walk home alone. So, I mean, so let's take it at face value. Let's say that it's the actual fact of the matter. And with that, I would say,
I'm sorry, guys. Can y'all give me one moment?
Drink a
I'm
little
so
water.
sorry. Something's going on.
So I would say with that, you know, if an interview is going good, it may last longer. I've been in interviews, they say, oh, about 30 minutes, end up being an hour.
Yeah,
get to talking.
Someone else in.
And especially if they don't have anybody right after you, you know, it's going good. And, you know, everything is flowing well. Conversation just flowing.
They could have wanted to decide, we're going to hire you. Let's start the orientation process. So
that's just a new onboarding or some paperwork, right?
So there's a lot of things. And we both work in HR. I've been in interviews where women or people would bring their kids and say, you sit right there, because they're like, hey, I didn't have a babysitter, but I need this job.
Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Right now, let's just talk about was he wrong?
Was he wrong? Again, yes and no. Leaving because he didn't leave them by themselves. They were kind of in a safe place. But the fact, again, you know, you say, well, you couldn't find anyone else. Well, obviously he couldn't.
Right.
You know, so yes, he was wrong, but he was doing what he had to do. Could he have said, you know, well, I don't want to get ahead, but the answer was he wrong, yes and no.
Right, because, you know, it's so many different thoughts and scenarios. It's like I said, thinking through it, McDonald's is safer than a child being home alone. Because at home, they can set a fire. Mm-hmm. At home, they can, you know, everybody clean their house. I got bleach. I got, you know, pass up. They could ingest poison. They could hurt themselves with a knife or scissors. Or just nonsense that kids do. You could glue your brother to your sister. Like, you know, it's so many things.
Not glue your brother to your sister.
I'm just saying. It's so many things kids can get into at home.
Take a super glue. Give me your lips.
Listen. They're nonsense. We've seen, you know, little videos where like a dad will fall asleep, wake up, and it's lipstick all everywhere. Crayon, marker, the whole floor full of flour. Like, you know, it's just so many things that a child could get into. So his thoughts could have been, hey, they safer here. Mm-hmm. You know, again, where they can't get a hold, there's no sharp object to get a hold of, and there's no, you know, there's no.
So obviously, he was thinking of the kids. Some people would say, no, you weren't. Yes, he was. Because he's like, this is a safe place for them.
Absolutely. And that kind of goes into the next question, like, why did he do it? Obviously, he's walking. He live in, you know, some apartments, not too far. This isn't somebody well-to-do, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, he didn't have a job. He's trying to get a job, you know. So it's kind of like, you know, between a rock and a hard place. I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to get a job so I can afford childcare. And we know, like, you know, our kids are adults now, but childcare was expensive then. The cost now is astronomical. I know several people, and we're not talking about people working at the McDonald's. We're talking about people that have careers making good money. I know I got a friend of mine I went to church with. He was like, it makes more sense for my wife to be a stay-at-home mother than to work, because after we both work, her entire check is going to child care.
Yeah.
Because if you paying, the average cost, you know, is like, $600-700.
What is the average cost?
The average cost for childcare, and let me do a quick search because, like I say, it's been a while since
because I was paying $65 a week, and that was
for where, girl?
This was on the Lolo. It was a home daycare. Two of my coworkers were there, but that was in 2000.
No, I was paying like $3 something a week. For Jay and Elijah. So that was
I was paying $65 a week.
Yeah, you had a hookup. Somebody grandmama and them. This is not a
but it was a home daycare. It was legit.
But
it
again,
she was with the state, and it was a good daycare, and I was blessed because prior to then, I think I'm screaming, but prior to then, my aunt Doris kept Isaiah, and then when he turned a year old, I was like, okay, I want him around other kids. So
it really depends. So in St. Louis, it says the average cost of child care per month is $700 to $2,500
a week,
a month.
Okay.
So we take it all the way on the low end, $700 a month, and you divide that by 4 weeks. That's $175, and that's one child. Mm-hmm. So let's take it $700 times 3 children. That's $2,100 a month. Mm-hmm. So if you're making $1,000 a week, after taxes, that's only daycare. You haven't eaten anything. You haven't paid no bills.
And you used to could rely on assistance with the state now and government, but I don't know how that's been changed now with this political climate that we're in. And the president that we have that's cutting everything.
Yeah.
So that sometimes it may be best, it's best for me to stay at home. And they want to say, well, keep on welfare and this and that. In some cases, and with me working in nonprofit for so long, the mothers will say, it's best for me to be at home right now. Like when they get older, then I'm going to do this. So sometimes, yeah.
And let me be clear. We both have children. And, you had, somebody's mom, but my kids they went to a couple different daycares. And let me be crystal clear. The low end spectrum, the $700 one, is not going to be the best daycare. Mm-hmm. You got these young women working there. If they're charging
with the good one. She was an older lady.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. When you go to a daycare charging that amount, they can charge that amount because they're paying their employees less. And when you're paying your employees less, you're going to get a certain caliber of work. A lot of young girls. Because let's be clear, somebody grown ain't finna be working for no $12, $13 an hour dealing with them kids. Mm-hmm. And you can't afford to pay much more than that if you're charging only $700.
And then I was in a home daycare.
Correct. And that's why she could afford to cut you those breaks because she wasn't having to pay for the overhead of a building.
She was older, left another job, and she did it because that's what she loved. And I don't think she was lacking on money because she came from a corporate. She was doing this because she loved it.
Gotcha.
Like I said, I was blessed.
Right.
And I only had to use one daycare. Very blessed.
Right. Some people,
everybody,
if you want that quality care, we're talking about nutritious meals, all that. You're getting into that $1,000, $2,000 a month range.
And I would say that because Isaiah and I were talking about this just today, I think. This morning, I was shopping and looking for daycares, and some I was like, I'm not bringing my child here that I just was not comfortable with. So you're right, absolutely.
So a lot of people will jump to like, oh, could have just got daycare. Well, daycare costs money. Babysitters cost money. Everything costs money. Mm-hmm. And if he's trying to get a job, he obviously ain't got it. And you got 3 kids. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't. And then when we talk about babysitting or family, my family, I had 2 biological that I had to be responsible for and take care of. Like I'm even talking about before me and James got together. You know what I'm saying? And things like that. Sometimes people like, oh no, you got 2 kids, you got 2 boys. You know what I'm saying? They busy, they doing this, they doing that. So we talking about, 3 kids, and then he had a 1-year-old. Some people like, oh well, I'll watch the 10 and 6 because I can they can feed themselves, do this and that. A 1-year-old needs more supervision. A 1-year-old, unless they are super baby, generally still in diapers. 1-year-old Jay and Elijah didn't walk for like 15 months. Most 1-year-olds, depending on how baby could be closer to 2, I'm assuming, because he left. Well, I would assume this 1-year-old could walk and things like that. But more than likely, in a pull-up type situation,
they need more attention.
Absolutely. So
some
people not even because Jay, case in point, we told you we got a little one on the way. Jay and them, they like, oh yeah, that was Jamie. Remember when we talked to Jamie last? He was like, oh, when I get my I ain't babysitting till my nephew like 5. Because
you have especially with men, they like, I don't take the babies, but when they get like my dad he didn't want them as babies because he's like, I don't know what to do with a baby. I can't have. But when they got older, he had the boys.
So there's so many factors, So I want people to think about that, when they having these conversations or they're making their assessments or judgments about this situation. It's so many reasons why he did what he did and why he felt like he needed to do, handle it in that way.
Sometimes out of desperation,
absolutely.
Or just like you say,
like
survival, you like, I got to do what I got to do. And we've always all been there somehow, some way with some situation.
Back in the day, I was on public assistance. It's a lot. It was a lot trying to feed just me and my 2 boys. This man trying to take care of him and 3 kids. And, that's a lot of mouths to have to feed. And you trying to, figure it out. And then we're talking about no vehicle to get to and from. So they walking everywhere. And you trying to walk with 3 kids in tow.
Baby.
Right. That's a lot. And then, who knows how long he been out of work. Bills is backed up. The mother probably 9 times out of 10 is the custodial parent. So we just making some assumptions and deductions here. He probably behind on child support. It's a snowball. It's a snowball effect. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So next question, Elle.
We talked about how he should handle it.
I guess we kind of, have talked about it.
We talked about how he should handle it.
So, we talked about why we talk about why we think he would handle it. So, how should he have handled it? Like, if it was you. So, let's talk about how he should have handled it. So, actually, we talked about why we think he handled it, but how should he?
Let's say under not even just a perfect situation, but a situation. We all could say, well, he could have called someone. He could have waited till the mom got in. He could have told, and these are things that's just going through my mind. He could have waited and told them, hey, well, I got to get a babysitter, or can we reschedule? There's a lot of things he could have done in that instant. See, and it's so hard to do this when you don't know the whole story. So it's hard to say, well, he should have done this and he should have done that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We just talk about how you would have handled it.
How I would have handled it. Again, I'm going to say how blessed I've been. I've always had a big village and people I could go to, friends that could keep Isaiah. My aunt who could keep Isaiah before my grandmother's got sick. She could keep Isaiah. And even when Shahada got older, she could watch him. So in my instance, it would have been easy for me to pick up a phone and say, hey, I need a babysitter. Or instances, financially, I was in a different position where I had money put to the side. I happened to have a little extra money or had something coming through where I remember one time I had left the job, but I had money saved. I was still able to pay my daycare. So he didn't have to be at home with me that day. And then even then, if not, and if I'm looking for employment, I could have been in a situation where the state could have paid for it because I'm doing job search, or I would have been in some type of training program or something. Even if I was in a training program knowing I'm educated, I got 2 degrees, I don't need this. But you best believe I would have gotten that program and sat in that class that I know I probably could have taught myself, shut my mouth so I can do what I do, and then had the daycare for my child too. So it was different for me.
So with that, a lot of times, one, men don't know about these resources. People don't even mention them to men. We talked about that, used to have the Father Support Center. Now it's just like the family support. But and this is in Missouri. This is in the St. Louis metropolitan area where we are. He's in Georgia. We don't know if they even have those resources. Then we have to talk about the societal judgment. It's sometimes hard for men to ask for help because it's a stigma that men are supposed to be strong, handling business, this and that, and that they aren't supposed to need help or ask for help or things like that. Again, I was also in a situation where I had family support and friends and things like that. And but what I would say, because I do know some single dads, some phenomenal single dads. So me playing devil's advocate, what I say what he should have done is, you got these 3 kids. We have to be more forward thinking, and we have to think about what do I need. You got to start making friends with people, and trying to figure out network. You know what I'm saying, and figure out how do I navigate this. Find you somebody that got kids your age or kids that's older. Absolutely. And things of that nature,
Because women, we talk, and we're quick to say, who do you use, or where can I get this? And we're resourceful because, and I'll say this, and I've said this, and don't shoot me. It's a brother may come on and say, no, that's not true, you're wrong. But I think women, we think A, B, C, D, E, all the way down to Z ahead. And I think, not all.
I'll say this to clarify: women are more likely to think about women are normally more detail oriented, and men are more big picture. But there's not a dead stop. Yeah.
Right. And again, I think a lot of it has to, because men, like, I'm supposed to be the caretaker, I'm supposed to do this, and it could be a little harder to ask.
Absolutely, definitely. I feel like pride is definitely plays a role, in that. Most definitely. And
again, I guess the question being, what should he have done?
And I was going to that, which again, we're assuming that he did. We have a resource here in St. Louis called the St. Louis Crisis Nursery. That is a place where you can drop your child off. It's 24 hours. You can drop them off. You don't have to provide, any explanation for short term. They, have some type of intake that they do, and they'll, let you know, I don't know what the parameters is as far as how long you can leave your child, but I know you can leave them for several hours. I know it could be overnight. Maybe your babysitter called off last minute. You need to go work your shift or interview, whatever. We have that. And I don't know if all states have a resource like that, because when you get into trying to call CPS and stuff, they want to get in your business and try to take your children away. But we have a place here, like I said, it's called the St. Louis Crisis Nursery, which I think is excellent. It's a last minute resource where you can, drop your child off, more or less, no questions asked, for a short term resource. Even if it's mental health break. You got 3 kids and they running you ragged, and I just need a reset. Yes. I need to drop these kids off. I need a moment. I need to catch my breath.
So we'll do that and give me a break, because you don't want to get so stressed where you end up hurting your kids. So being stressed.
In the perfect world, again, I don't know if it's a resource like that in Georgia, but if I was him and I didn't have anybody, and again, he may not know about those resources.
And the thing is, you don't. Sometimes you don't know what to ask.
Absolutely.
So people say, "Why didn't he just ask?" Some people don't know.
Sometimes it's just hard.
You don't know.
I've been in situations where it was hard for me to ask for help, just in general. Sometimes it's just hard for us to ask for help. But this just goes into, what we talk about all the time on Uncoupled Couple. It's all about the kids. And it's our job as big people to keep them safe. And again, it just goes into our next point. This is just why communication and a good relationship between parents is so vital because in the story, the actual story, it did talk to the older child, which was a girl. She was 10. She didn't have a cell phone, but she did or maybe she did have a phone. I was assuming maybe she did because it was said that she reached out to her mom via social media. And her mom came up to the McDonald's where the kids were. And so my thoughts were, if she came up there when the child reached out, why didn't you reach out and have the mom come? And again, this is just our thoughts, our speculation. We're not in it. But that immediately says to me, oh, him and her not on good terms. Not good enough, because if the daughter called and said we left alone, she came immediately. Why couldn't he say, hey, I need to do X, Y, Z, and she came? That says to me,
were the parents together?
Right. It sounds as if he either asked her and she said, no, it's your time. You need to take care of them. I'm on my time. I'm not, when it's your turn and your, set amount of time to have the kids, it's your responsibility. When I got them, I got to figure out, when I got an interview or I got this or I got that, I got to finish out. I got to figure out the care for the kids when you got them, it's on you.
And that's again why the communicating and the communication is so important in having a village. So it's possible to have a village. That village can consist of the mother and the father, or the bio mom and the bio father. You know how
because
we work together.
Our dynamic is not everybody's, because mama might not have nobody new yet. Daddy might not have nobody new yet. So as far as parents, it may only be bio mom and bio dad. Right. But that's when we talk about that village is needed. You got to build that village. Daycare. If your kid's in daycare, talk to other daycare moms. Talk to your coworkers, neighbors. Find, you take your kids to the park. You see other kids your children's age. Hey, where's your mom or dad? Right there. Hey, my name is Jim. Hey, my name is Bob. Y'all get to know each other. Hey, our kids are having that's a perfect opening conversation. Our kids are having a great time at the park. We should probably do this again.
I had a neighbor in my apartment building. She was a young mother like I was. So sometimes I would go to the park, and we built that trust where we trusted each other. So
but
I could have my kids. I'll take her boys, give her a break, and she take them and said we'll be back, and then they go to McDonald's or whatever after building that trust. But again, we got to know each other,
but you got to start those conversations. And you got to obviously get to know people. Right. That's a good way to start. Like I said, going to a park or somewhere where other kids would play with strangers' kids. That's a good way to have those conversations and open that up.
And then just to get to learn about. Yeah. Just at the point of learning about.
You see who your kids are playing with.
Resources and things like that.
And then again, you develop and establish those relationships, and now you have a resource. And you all can be that for each other. Now that they know each other, set up some play dates. The kids are becoming more familiar. You're becoming more familiar. Then you get to a place where, oh, hey, I got this interview. You think you can watch the kids for an hour or two? Yeah, no problem. Drop them off. Vice versa. Hey, me and the wife, we want to, if the other couple just say they're a married couple. And it's like, hey, we're going to, we want to have a date night. Think we can drop off our kids. And that's, you got to build that village. You got to build that village, because sometimes, I may not be available, because that was also discussed. Maybe your village is not available. Maybe your village is tired because,
is busy.
Oh, yeah. Maybe, if it's like this is summertime. We just got back from vacation, a couple weeks ago. So it's like, and we had invited another, my opponent's son, his mom, she invited her best friend and Juan's best friend, but they had a family reunion. So they couldn't go. But in that instance, if this was like during that time, if she needed to call on her, like, hey, could you get him so I could, say we weren't out of town and we were doing something. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. My family got family reunion. We're going to be out of town. But then she could call me and Jared, you got to have more than one resource, and it takes intentionality and communication on you to build those relationships and make sure that everything is good. But these were younger people, and again, it seems that he doesn't have a really good relationship with the mom, and then sometimes relationship building is not a skill that people are necessarily taught. If it's not modeled in the home, if your parents didn't have a good relationship, who's teaching you how to build relationships? You know what I'm saying? So when we talk about building a village, that's a very intentional thing. We gotta get ahead on that. So let me step back. You had a
I had a question.
Yes.
So say we talk about kids. You said the girl was 10. And sometimes growing up, a lot of kids, we were latchkey kids. So my question is, say if you have kids that are older, what's a good age, or what do you think is the right age for an older sibling to step in? And say if you had a job interview and said, well, I got this 16-year-old, this 16-year-old can watch these kids for a couple of hours.
I think I agree with them. I really think it's based on your children and their
10,
maturity.
12,
Again,
6.
Again, it's based on your actual child and what their capability is and things of that nature. My two bio boys, they are very, very different. In a lot of ways, even now, Elijah has some more maturity on things than Jay does. But then on the other side of things, when it comes to being street smart and more savvy and quick on your feet, that'll be Jay. If Jay was in, like, case in point, one time I was getting out of the car and I don't know how I did it. I closed my hand in the car door and the door was locked. So I couldn't get my hand out of the car, and my keys were in my purse. I couldn't get it. So I'm screaming. I'm in this cruciate bag. It was a minivan. So the sliding door, I had slammed my hand in it. And Jay, I was like, Jay, I was screaming. I was crying because I'm in pain. Jay didn't panic. He got the keys out of my purse, and he had to be. This is when we lived on Goodfellow. So they would have been going to Nance. So that means Jay and Isaiah were in 3rd grade? 4th grade?
More like 4th, maybe 5th.
Because they was in 4th and 5th, we lived in Florissant.
Is that 4th and 5th?
Because when we moved to Illinois after Florissant, they were in middle school.
Right.
And Carriel was, middle school was 6th, 7th, and 8th. They went to Carriel, and when we moved to Illinois.
Yeah, they had to be about 9. Because I remember they ended up over there when I was
on Goodfellow,
working.
They would have been maybe third and 4th. But it wasn't 5th. I know for a fact because we lived in Florissant. I think we might have moved to Florissant 4th and 5th because we were there almost 2 years. So they would have had to be, Goodfellow would have been probably 2nd and 3rd grade. Because that's when Isaiah came to stay with us, and he was what, 8?
About 8.
7, 8, something like that. So he was a little boy. And he was able to calmly help me and get me out the door. So I was like, a lot of ways, Jay was mature in that way. Elijah, when like stuff happened, Elijah freezes up. So, that's what I'm saying. You gotta take all of those things into account. And you know your child best. And if they're responsible enough and things like that. Because like I say, like we did preface, like the story didn't go exactly as he said, but let's say it did. I definitely, my boys are about the same gap as his. My sons would have been 10 and 6. I don't have a younger though. And I would have felt comfortable leaving Jay at 10 home with Elijah by himself at 6 for me to go to an interview if I knew I was just going to be gone a little over an hour or so. Not even a full 2 hours. But with the 1-year-old, no, not so much.
Right.
The 1-year-old needs more care. But again, I have boys. His 10-year-old is a girl, and we don't know how much she needed, her capability, because I had friends growing up at 10 years old, because of different things with their parents and their home life. At 10 years old, taking care of their siblings, cooking the food, cleaning out. I know, I have friends coming up in elementary school. A 10-year-old was basically taking care of the entire house, other than like going out and buying the groceries and paying the bills and stuff.
Forced and put in that position.
Yeah.
And to learn quickly.
Yeah. Right. I'm not gonna say what's right, what's wrong. All families look different cultures. It's just different, but it was really about, is that child ready? And that's really an age. And in that topic, I think the panel of ladies, they were from Houston. He's in Georgia, but they were saying in Houston there is no age. It's it's determining, because some people, everybody got an opinion. But I think the real deal of it is you knowing if your child is responsible and able enough to do so and so. Because also based on the feedback that we heard, like I said, when we did our further investigating, we found out that the little girl reached out to her mom and her mom came. So that tells you right there, that 10-year-old, she's very mature, she's smart, she obviously know how to find her mom on social media. So that means she know her name, my siblings, who my dad is. She, they said she told the police, what her dad was supposed to be doing and this and that, and, so she's very, very intelligent for a 10-year-old. So it sounds like, yes, she's ready, but when you unfortunately leave your children in a public place, now you're subject to public opinion.
Right. And especially if you have other adults. I'm thinking them at McDonald's and they're like, he left and said, okay, he'll be back. And then after a couple of hours, they could be like,
well, it didn't even turn into a full 2 hours. But I really think it was the 1-year-old, me personally. Because a whole bunch of kids playing around, you probably ain't even tripping off them kids. Like, it's kids here, kids everywhere. It probably was the 1-year-old that really set off alarms. Now, again, 6'10", that's subjective. 1 year old, that 100% needs adult supervision. My personal opinion, even a mature child, a 10-year-old, just mature.
Yeah, because you see something, especially when you see a child so young, first thing you think of, where mom and dad are going like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like I do know some 10-year-olds that were physically capable to take care of a 1-year-old, but maturity-wise, like I said, my personal opinion, and then just talk about babysitting. I don't think 10. I think a teenager is probably the youngest I would have babysit a 1-year-old. And when I'm talking one, I'm talking about 12 months plus. Anything under 12 months, I would probably more myself personally would be more comfortable with an adult watching.
And then the fact with children being put in that position, but again, there's so many scenarios, like we were saying, and we were talking about some kids being forced to literally raise their brothers and sisters, due to if there's addiction, depression, or whatever, Some children are forced to grow up fast, and kids, we learn by viewing and seeing, so it doesn't take long, for a child to say, okay, I know this how this works. I know how to boil an egg. I've seen mama make tuna. I know how to do that, because they're being kicked and forced into survival mode.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this just for me, it's just, when sometimes we just don't have the resources. And, when we become parents, we have to create resources. Like I said, talking to the other mom or the other dad at the park, sometimes it's been plenty of times where, like I say, I was on public assistance before, got food stamps and Medicaid, things like that. Nobody, I don't, this, I mean, for the most part, nobody like, oh yeah, I want to be on welfare. Like that's generally not the attitude. But sometimes we have to humble ourselves to get the help that we need so that we can provide and do the best for our kids. Because sometimes you just don't have it. Like I say, if your tank, if you're running on empty, like you said, mental health, you know, you need help. And sometimes we have to swallow our pride and ask for help and say, hey, if I need some help, where can I find it? What are what resources are available to me? So, we're running out of time here. That went fast.
Indeed.
So
I would like to say this. What we will do, there will be information within our post and at the end of this podcast for resources for you to reach out if you feel that you need help. So we will be leaving resources.
I was definitely, I was gonna say that. So we will, at the end of this episode, post some resources. Like we mentioned, the St. Louis Crisis Nursery. We'll put them, their number, information, and a couple other resources that we know of. We'll post it at the end of this so that, like you said, you have to, if you don't have anybody personally, as far as your village, start working on it. But in the meantime, like I said, we're gonna post some resources because we here at the Uncoupled Couple, we are all about the kids, and we know what it was like, and we know it was tough coming up. And when we was younger, then again, like I say, when I got married, that was a whole nother village that came with, I got Eliani, and we linked up, and we ain't stopped ever since. And but in the beginning, and it's just you and them kids, and you looking around. And again, as we talked about, when you first break up and those feelings are still raw, you and baby mama or baby daddy ain't clicking right then. And sometimes people are at a place where they have to do their pickup and drop off at the exchange center. Like it's such a strained relationship that you can't even, you're not at a place where y'all can, hey, I got this, can you help me out? I know it's my weekend, but if you get the kids these 2 hours, maybe next time I'll keep them an extra 2 hours so maybe you can have some time for yourself. If y'all not at that point where you got to make these resources. But in the meantime, we are going to provide some resources in the St. Louis metropolitan area. If you feel like you don't have anybody, there are some resources out there that's available to everyone. Like we said, comment, let us know your thoughts, weigh in on, what you guys think about the situation, how you would have handled it, things of that nature. And just tell us, how you guys are, what you thought of this episode. And just, we want to hear from you guys. We want to keep giving you content that is meaningful, that's helping you guys. Because that's what we're doing it for. You know what I'm saying? Like we really want everybody to be able to be in a healthy space. We see so many things happen in this society, and we know that it's not going to get better unless we are putting better people into society. And we know we only have our generations and our young people only become better if we're pouring into them. So like, subscribe, share, follow, comment.
And while you're at it,
all the things.
And while you're at it, you got some things going on. And while you're at it, you can also email us at therealuncoupled.com. I'm sorry, therealuncoupled couple at gmail.com. therealuncoupled@gmail.com. You can leave a comment or send us something letting us know what you would want to see, a topic you'd like us to talk about.
Right. We've been doing this for a while, and we want to, in 2026, we want some fresh ideas for 2026. So if there's something that you guys are, want to talk about or a topic, yes, shoot us an email, or you can send us messages on any of our socials. So like you said, we are the Real Uncoupled Couple at gmail.com. We are the Real Uncoupled Couple on TikTok. We are the Uncoupled Couple on Instagram, Facebook, Threads. Like I said, inbox us, message us, email us, and let us know or just drop us a line what you're thinking about the show. We would love your ideas because we really, really do this for you guys. So if you have some show ideas, we would love to hear them so we can use them in our lineup in 2026. And so like I say, follow us, like, subscribe, follow, share, comment, all of that.
All the above.
Other than that, until next time, peace.
Peace. Yeah.